if you're going to be a cricketing country, it's hoped you will embrace the spirit of cricket, the spirit of fair play, that you'll be proud of your nation, but you will also be proud of the variations of humankind, just as you're proud of the natural variations of a wobble seam or a left or right cutter. I can bring it back to cricket.
That's an excellent...
We're both wobble seamers.
I mean, this is usually the part of the podcast where we tell you a few things about who our guest is on the show, but does anyone really need to be told about Stephen Fry's resume? Comedian, actor, writer, presenter, whisper it quietly, a national treasure, and at the start of the spring, he added another accolade to his already prodigious CV when he was named as the next president of the MCC. Stephen described himself as humbled and honoured by the appointment, and when we got a message saying, "Do you fancy having him on the podcast?" well, we felt pretty much the same way. I can tell you there are a few finer honours than having someone like Stephen Fry on the pod, and this is every bit the episode you think it might be, and much more besides. We talk about all sorts of things. How Stephen got the cricket bug, his most memorable moments as a fan, the honour of being named MCC president and what the MCC is all about, being a gay man in cricket and whether that's significant to this appointment, and what he hopes to do with his presidency, what he's got planned for the rest of the year. So much good stuff in this conversation. It is an absolute cracker that we are still pinching ourselves that we are able to bring you. And yes, Stephen Fry coming this way on the podcast in a moment or two. Before we bring you that, the usual bits and bobs, 30 seconds to tell you how you can support us. Please rate, review and subscribe wherever you're listening to the podcast today. If you can and you think we've deserved it, hit that 5-star button and write a little note, not for my ego. It just helps us move up through the charts and more people continue to hear amazing stories from the LGBTQ plus community in sport, and by hitting that subscribe button you get fresh episodes delivered to your device each and every Wednesday about 8 a.m. UK time, and all the bonus episodes as well. If you are LGBTQ plus or an ally in sport, reach out, come on for a natter. We always love having new folks on the podcast and old friends as well. It's Jack_Murley or jack.murley@bbc.co.uk to do that. And most importantly of all, share the love and spread the word on your socials wherever you do it. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. A word from you, whether you're a first timer or you've been with us all the way since the autumn of 2018, about what you've heard today helps us grow. We're so grateful for it. So go on, do all of that and we'll be very happy indeed. And with all of that said, let's get to the reason you are here today. I still can't quite believe that we managed to pull this one off, but we have, thanks to the fabulous incoming president of the MCC. It's the one and only Stephen Fry talking about whether he can believe he's been appointed to this position. Take a listen.
Not really, and I know it's common for those who are appointed or asked to perform some high duty to say that they're humble. But in this case, it really is true, because I'm, not a cricketer in almost any sense at all. Am I a cricketer? And therefore, to have such I will say, important role in cricket is the highest I could ever ascend in this game that I love so much. And so, I'm constantly slightly having to pinch myself. Of course, it's not an executive position. It's not a position that involves selecting players or determining, the structure of the game in any meaningful way. But that's not to say it doesn't have, ramifications and importance, in the sense that the MCC is a name that's known so much around the cricketing world, and there is influence you can bring to bear, I hope, for good, for the opening and the continued development and the exciting movement forwards of the game.
Was there any inkling? Were there nudges and winks, a sense that you knew this was coming?
Only post facto, as you might say, in as much as I was asked by Kumar Sangakkara, who was then president, if I would deliver the Cowdrey lecture on the spirit of cricket. And I was deeply honoured and thought that was the highest point I'd ever reached, because it's a very interesting and significant annual event in which someone connected to the game in one way or another is allowed to muse publicly about developments and directions that the game is taking, usually under the umbrella of the idea of the spirit of cricket, which is a very wide sort of ambit, I suppose. So I thought, wow, that's amazing. And then Kumar stood down and his successor, Claire Connor, took over. And that's when the thunderbolts fell, and she asked if I would, take over from her. And I hadn't realized, although I had known some previous holders of the position, I hadn't realized that it was the president who nominates their successor every time. And for all I know, there were screams of horror and outrage emerging from the committee rooms and other places at Lords when it was announced that I was to be the next, because as far as I know, there's no mechanism to turn down other than pleading to turn down the nomination.
You were stuck, Stephen. You didn't have a choice.
I didn't. But Kumail's incredibly kind letter asking me to do it, and then Claire asking me, made me realize that perhaps there was a sort of predictable nature to it, but it had never struck me before.
I know we want to talk about your goals for it. Now you are lumbered with the job. I joke, it's a great privilege. I know what you mean. But what struck me, because I did watch the Cowdery lecture, is when you said at the start of it that for you growing up, sport was something you loathed, and yet cricket was something separate. Cricket wasn't sport. It snuck through the net for you. How did that happen?
It's an interesting question, and I'm not sure. I think partly it was I first misunderstood cricket in as much as I didn't realize what a fast, furious, and violently physical game it is. Anyone who's stood in my case at square leg or at the stumps as an umpire at a cricket match where the players are of pretty high quality will realize that fizz from the ball and the way it leaps up and jams against the fingers of the batter and the throwing and the speed and it is a very, very physical game. Of course it is. And it's a bit like what my friend Douglas Adams, the writer, used to say about sheep and how from a distance they look so placid and lyrical and woolly and beautiful, but when you get close up, they have these almost prehistoric faces. And it's a bit like that with cricket. It's a much tougher game than it looks from the distance of a passing train that's viewing a village game going on. But nonetheless, it was the game that appealed to me. I just had never seen a game which had so much possibility, so much change, so much variety, depended on so many different situations, changed so much. The fluctuations from over to over were astonishing. The speed with which, your ability to read the game had to be refocused. And that was something that just thrilled me. And it's not, as some people, of course, who don't understand or like cricket, think it's either only for a certain class of person or a certain person with a certain background or physical capability, or for a kind of eggheady statistician type who goes on and on about weird sort of formulaic things and statistics. But it wasn't that. It was a passionate love of a game that I adored watching. I didn't really think I'd ever play it, because I had no sense of myself as a physical being at all. But I did know that I would value watching it for the rest of my life. And that has continued. And the miracle is how, like an individual match of cricket, how the game itself has changed so much that, as we know, a test match and even a one-day match is a narrative within a narrative within a narrative. There's the narrative of that batsman against that bowler. There's the narrative of that batsman with that batsman. Oh, he's a history of running him out. Or, they're always good together. They never have had a partnership bigger than 5. Or there's so, and let alone the weather and the state of the pitch and all the other obvious, parameters and variations that cricket is so rich with. But on top of that, there's the narrative of the game itself changing. The rise of the one-day game. The Gillette Cup one-day matches used to be pretty damn boring. And the ODIs were pretty tedious for quite a long time because of the middle section, which was just nurdling and nurdling and nurdling. But that's changed. And the style and spirit of the game has changed. And that's amazing to watch. And so being a part of that, realizing, the way I like to put it, that cricket is a river and that it's always moving. It's not a question of, here is cricket in this position, static. We must now change it and move it somewhere else. Cricket is moving. It's moving this way and this way. And maybe we need to just divert it a little to channel it here, to join in that Oxbow Lake there, or whatever one wants to use in that metaphor. But that's what I've been thinking of ever since this dream job arrived.
Well, this is the thing. So someone's going to sit down and on day one say, well then, Mr. Fry, here we go. What shall we be doing on day one? And what would you like this to be about? What do you want? I mean, it's a horrible question because there's so many different ways you could go. Yeah. But have you got an inkling?
For those who are not as familiar with the MCC, and why should they be, as others might be, it's worth pointing out what the MCC actually is. First and foremost, it's a club, as the name implies, Marylebone Cricket Club. So it has members, and famously, it's quite a difficult club to become a member of. You can either become a playing member, where you have to be a really very good player, because I think it's about 500 matches a year or something that MCC as a club plays. So it's one of the best travelled and most prolific cricket clubs there is, as well as the oldest. And I think most people would agree the most distinguished of the clubs. So that's it. And clubs, and that's how you get to be a member one way. But the most common way is to pay a small fee to get on the waiting list, which I have to tell you is 29 years before you can become a member.
Can you put a word in for me, Stephen, if I start early?
Just pop your name down now and you can be an associate member in 10 years. And that gives you all the value of the club, really. You don't vote at certain events, but who wants to do that? But it allows you in for quite a few of the matches, and you can move around in the club areas, which is a thrill. You know, you can be sitting at in the Lord's Pavilion watching the players walk past you as they come down from their dressing rooms. And that's the other thing that the MCC is. It's the guardian and owner and runner of Lord's Cricket Ground, the home of cricket. A brilliant place to visit if you love cricket. You'd be amazed to see what there is here. Even come when there isn't a match, because there are lots of things to see. Because the third thing is, of course, it's also the custodian of the laws of cricket internationally. You know, what constitutes a catch or an LBW. But the fourth thing is its role around the world as a kind of standard bearer for the nature of cricket. And I don't mean that in a fuddy-duddy way at all, because I'm also a patron and have been for some years of the MCC Foundation, which is really there to open cricket up as much as possible to as many people. Firstly, in Britain, of course, and there are these MCC hubs, which I've contributed to and which are very important, which sort of give training and equipment and coaching and all the things that are needed for a young person who's excited by cricket. Because I'm sure you'd agree with me that if you show a child a cricket bat and a ball and a set of stumps and explain that if they can guard the stumps from a ball which is trying to get through and hit them, and if you can hit a ball far enough to be able to run to the other end, they get it so quickly and they're thrilled by it, because there are few games which are more instantly accessible as an idea and more thrilling to a child.
Oh, and people will bowl at anything. Whether they'll bowl at the back garden wall, they'll bowl at the swings, they'll bowl at a rake, they'll bowl at anything.
Swings. I used to do that at home. I used to bowl at the swings with apples. And you could get the swing to move if it came off exactly the right length. And I'd put pieces of paper down, which I would hit on a good length, and things like that. And yeah, it's the thrill of practice. But nonetheless, while that's true, if you can have the kind of facilities that are available to, you know, people from private schools and, you know, at other levels, then if they can be shared, if you can find a way for them to be happily shared, not in a way that is, you know, kind of mean and kind of right. You've had the conch for long enough. Now it's someone else's turn. It can all be shared. So that's an important part of it, but also worldwide. One of the great achievements, I think, of cricket in the last 15 years, which has been horribly destroyed, was the introduction of cricket to Afghanistan. Huge success. And as you know, they performed quite outstandingly at the last World Cup and the World Cup before that, rather. Now, of course, dead, it seems, or at least sleeping. Let's hope. They produced the best leg spin in the world, yes. You know, I mean, apart from anything else. So my predecessor went, the current president, Claire Connor, went to Lebanon recently. Yeah, there's real growth in cricket there. And I was talking to these two fantastic women who are helping start up the MLC, Major League Cricket in America. So it's all going in the right direction, but the channel needs to run faster to help more people come to the game.
It's about accessibility, and you mentioned the Cowdrey lecture, and you and I are both gentlemen who, in your words, bowl off the wrong foot. which is both true and a euphemism that applies well. And I'm wondering whether it's significant of the kind of change you're talking about, that actually it's a gay man who happens to be in this position, a prominent man from the LGBTQ plus community in this most British institution.
Yes, I'm very pleased about that, and it shows that how the MCC is going in an interesting direction without, I think, undue wokery. That we've had our first overseas president, a Sri Lankan, not just a Sri Lankan, probably top 3 batsman in entire cricketing history, Kumar Sangakkara, and then the magnificent Claire Connor, who is at present, of course, holding down 2 jobs as running the ECCB as well. And now, yes, a proudly out gay man. And I'm very happy to fly the rainbow flag along the MCC flag, as it were. I'm not promising to fly it above Lord's, by the way. So in June, I think I will push for it next year. I think it is important to recognise that while in the women's game there have been some really, obviously, very encouraging and easy openings of the world, because, I mean, look at who scored a century yesterday.
Yes.
And she's married to a woman, and that seems to work so easily in women's cricket. In the men's game, I was thinking, is it still only Stephen Davis who's an out?
It is, and funnily enough, we're in Taunton where we've just been recording.
Have you spoken to him?
We haven't been able to speak to him because he wasn't available today, but we were doing a roundtable on being LGBTQ plus in cricket, and if you take Stephen out of the equation, there's no other man you can talk to. Now, that's, I suppose, as much a reflection as society as a sport, and it's very easy to say that's an issue with cricket, but it is telling that Stephen is the only one where surely he can't be.
No, I'm sure he can't. And I dare say we will. It's up. One of the things that I hope, I can help with is making sure that the ground is properly prepared, the wicket is prepared, as it were, for anybody who feels they can come out to be able to do so. It's not just a good for the LGBTQ world to have this profile and so on, but it will settle them. As we know, as gay men, for example, the act of coming out is a supremely important moment in our life, and one that just makes a lot of problems go away. It can occasionally cause problems for some people, according to their family and their friends and their community. But generally speaking, almost all gay people I know have come out and say, what a wonderful feeling that was. But, Jack, and this is important, I think one of the things where I'd like to, just remind people is that in the world of cricket, and I mean the world here globally, there are issues that have to be faced. And that is, for example, in the West Indies, in most Antigua, Barbados, Barbuda, most of the islands there, it is illegal. Homosexuality is illegal. And let alone when we start coming to Bangladesh and Pakistan, and where Pakistan has been playing its matches in the past in the UAE is even worse. And this is arising in football with Qatar, of course, and the World Cup coming. But it is, I think, important for cricket to show that if you are embracing cricket, you're embracing a world sport that also embraces a diversity of values, a rainbow of values. And that rainbow flag is part of that. And that if you're going to be a cricketing country, it's hoped that you will embrace the spirit of cricket, the spirit of fair play, that you'll be proud of your nation, but you will also be proud of the variations of human kind, just as you're proud of the natural variations of a wobble seam or a left or right cutter. I can bring it back to cricket.
That's an
excellent. We're both wobble seamers.
That's going to go on my profile now. A wobble seamer seeks similar for off-cutting fun. What would young Stephen, as we begin to bring this to a close, because I know you've got other folks to chat to, young Stephen, growing up thinking sport didn't have a place for him, if he could look into the future and go, in addition to everything you've accomplished, Lords are going to come knocking, the MCC is going to come knocking for you, would you have believed it?
I never would. And that's why I'm still pinching myself, Jack, because it is phenomenal. I remember the first time I came to Lords, where I'm speaking from, I got ruffled on the head by Tony Gregg when he gave me his autograph because I wished him good luck with a high voice, I think. And that was as close as I thought as I'd ever get to cricket, And I think it's like, of course, I want elite sports, as people call them, for a good reason. You have to be an elite player. And I don't think sport should be open to people who can't play sport at the highest levels. I think should be entirely chosen for your skill and everything. But the game should be open to all who want to play. Unquestionably, it should be open to all who want to play, whatever their background. But also, sport like comedy or literature, you don't have to be a practitioner to be involved. And look what you're doing. You're doing a podcast. I don't know how good you are at cricket. You're probably brilliant.
I think you probably do know, Stephen. Just looking at me, I think you can probably get a sense of it.
But you can involve yourself in the game in the way that you do. And anyone can set up, as we know, you can sit on a sofa and become a cult cricket commentary. You can write, you can blog, you can go with your friends to a match and dressed as Mario and Luigi, or you can, there are all kinds of ways that sport is open to people. And the first way, obviously, is watching it and having it available to be watched and beautifully analysed. And we are in a golden age of that. And hats off to Sky and to the other broadcasters, as well as the BBC, of course. And goodness me, TMS is a passion of mine. But the skill and the levels of articulacy and of fine-grained analysis are breathtaking. And much as I used to love the word imaging and poetry of John Arlott and Brian Johnson, I think we all have to admit now that we know more about the game because of the quality of commentators now. And when you hear Kumar, for example, on Sky, or you hear Phil Tufnell, very funny, charming, sweet man, but when it gets down to when he's talking about how the ball works and where to put a fielder, I mean, gosh, you really do understand the game at a heightened level. And that's all part of the thrill of following an astonishing pastime, sport, entertainment game like cricket. And it's a privilege to be a part of it. And I'm now a part that I never thought I would be.
It really is, Stephen. I just want to ask what the rest of the year has in store. I saw a very moving video you did with Norwich City that was released yesterday as we speak. Yeah. Incredible use of that fixture release that wasn't, and just if people haven't seen it, go and watch it because it's incredibly powerful. What else is on your agenda for the year?
Well, I'm finishing off a Netflix series which is secret. It's really weird. Some things are and some things aren't. That finishes in September. I've got a little gap in August, fortunately, so I might go on holiday. And I've got a few documentaries coming out, one on natural history, one on dinosaurs, which is natural history, I guess. What else? Gosh, I've got so much, it seems crazy. Oh, I'm doing a film, which isn't a secret. It's called Red, White and Royal Blue, and will please our LGBTQ friends, because I play the King of England, whose son, the heir in an alternative history England set in the present day, falls in love with another man and wants to marry him. And he's the heir to the throne. So that's quite fun. I think it's a comedy, but it's a delicious script based on a very successful YA novel. It's actually quicker to say young adult.
Isn't it? The acronym doesn't work, does it? or you say YAR or something like that.
So that, and then, yes, and then on 1st of October, I take over as president, and I'm trying to leave as much time as possible to be able to go and talk to schools and clubs and people where important, and go around the world a bit and fly the flag for the MCC and for openness and accessibility in cricket without annoying people with silly wokery. And it annoys me you have to say it, but you do. It's not about that. It's just about making the game better.
Well, Stephen, it's been an absolute pleasure. Feel free to whack my name on that list at Lords. If you can grease the wheels for me, I'd appreciate it. And thank you for joining us.
Such a pleasure, Jack. Thanks for having me.